Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth lecture from our first semester play Julius Caesar. In our previous lecture, we went through Act 1 and then we moved through Scene 1, 2, and 3. And now I will go through Act 2, Scene 1, and then I will move to, after that, Scene 2. So, in our previous lecture, we talked about the characters and their plan actually to conspire against Caesar, and we saw how Cassius is trying to manipulate Brutus so that he can join the conspiracy and perform their plan. So in Act 2, we have something different. We also must remember something about Act 1, which is the supernatural stuff that happened, like thunder, lightning, and any other stuff of the animals, lions, and so on. In Act 2, we have Brutus himself is walking in his garden, and his servant Lucius he asked his servant Lucius to bring a candle to his study room. And while Lucius went to bring the candlelight, Brutus soliloquizes something, which means he started to talk with himself very loudly so that everyone can hear him. So, this is what we mean by soliloquy. So, he started to soliloquize as that Caesar must be killed, not for what he has done, but rather to prevent what he might do were he to be crowned a king. Which means if he becomes a king, then he was very afraid of what Caesar might do to people or actually to Rome itself. So, from the beginning of this let's say scene, we realize that Cassius way to persuade Brutus was actually taking action now, because Brutus now started to think of what Cassius is saying, and now he's also thinking of killing Caesar and join the conspiracy. Lucius, his servant, Brutus' servant, came and told him that the candle is now lightened, and he found a couple of letters into his study room, or let's say into his uh, uh, office, let's say so. And as we already knew from Act 1, this is one of Cassius' plan to manipulate Brutus and to get his, um, let's say, approval to join the plan. So this is what Cassius did in Act 1, which is he forged a couple of letters and threw them into Brutus' house. Now Lucius, Brutus' servant, found the letters, and he told Brutus, I found a couple of letters into your, let's say, room. And when Brutus uh, read the letters, he read this line: Speak, strike, redress. So these letters is as if these letters are coming from citizens, but actually they're coming from Cassius himself, because he wants to manipulate Brutus. Student, there is something very important here, which is when Brutus himself read the letters, he didn't question its authenticity. So he should have let's say, a wit and intelligence, let's say, to realize that these letters are not actually coming from the citizens, because it's very weird that these letters shown up right now during this specific time, and at the same time uh, he should have realized that this is probably um, something wrong is happening. So he read the letters, and he immediately believed in what is said in those letters. But unfortunately, those letters, or let's say these letters, students, came very pretty much late, because Brutus has already made up his mind, and he already decided to kill Caesar, and decided that Caesar must die, which means that those letters has no powerful thing over Brutus thinking because he's already made that decision. Okay, so after a while, there was, uh, as we see here, in a second short soliloquy, he says that he has not slept since the earlier talk with Cassius. So student here means that Brutus himself, because it's a conspiracy, it's a killing thing. So Brutus himself, when talking to Cassius in Act One, he never ever slept after that because his mind was pretty much busy with the decision of the conspiracy thing. So after that, there was a knock on the door, and then his servant Lucius said that it was Cassius, the one who comes to Brutus to see him. And as we see here, your brother Cassius, historically student, Brutus and Cassius were in fact brothers-in-law, and Cassius married a sister of Brutus. This is happening before the conspiracy part, okay? So Cassius came, and there were a couple of conspirators also enter. And Brutus himself, he was actually thinking that, oh, he will come to the conspiracy thing. So whenever there is a soliloquy student, it means that the actor is speaking with himself, but he, as if he is making the audience listen to what is he saying. So this is what we mean by soliloquy. So once the conspirators have gathered in a Brutus study, the details of the assassination are planned. So now all the conspirators came into Brutus' house, and now we start the planning of the conspiracy. And Cassius introduced each one of the conspirators, or let's say assassins, to Brutus, and Brutus welcomed all of them into his house. And we see here and we see here that some of the conspirators make a little bit talk about the direction of the sunrise. And after that, Brutus uh, had a private conversation with Cassius, and Cassius told him like, let us swear our resolution, which means let us make an oath for what we are doing. But Brutus objects to an oath because he said it would be beneath that dignity of honor and motivation of their enterprise. So, also Cassius, after that, proposes that Cicero to be included in the conspiracy, but Brutus himself uh, actually didn't agree, and he said that Cicero will never follow anything that other men begin. So, everyone agreed with what Brutus has said, and then after that, uh, Cassius asked something. He said that also we should kill Mark Antony since he's the best friend to Caesar. Uh, According to Brutus, he said no because killing Antony will be too bloody. Their their main motive is killing Caesar himself. Then why should they kill Mark Antony? So for this reason, Brutus said that it will be too bloody because we are doing this for the sake of Rome, and we don't want the people to suspect what we are doing. Okay. Uh, then after that, the clock strikes 3 times. The clock strikes three. And students, you have to understand something about the clock. Why Shakespeare wrote this? I mean, is it were clocks being invented during that time, or clocks were invented actually after Shakespearean time. So try to search for that, student, because it's very important. And what is the indication of a clock in this scene? Okay. So Cassius wonders whether Caesar will come to the Senate on the next day. So all the conspirators were waiting for Caesar to come to the Senate, and then after that, they will kill him. So they were actually worried whether Caesar will go to the Senate for the next morning. And Decius himself, one of the conspirators, he assured Cassius and Eperitus that he can persuade Caesar to come to the Senate by 8 o'clock in the morning. Uh, Okay, so before the conspirators leave, Proteus advised them to look fresh and merry. Let not our looks put on our purposes, which means do not let anyone recognize or know what we are doing. Do not like have that look of like culling on your faces. Try to be normal, try to be fresh and merry. So after the conspiracy plan and after the Cassius and other conspirators visit Portia, we have another character here, and Portia is a Brutus' wife. And actually, she was very worried and she noticed something strange with her husband, Brutus. So she enters and desires to know what has recently been troubling Brutus. And he has been preoccupied, which means he was very busy and he was out of temper with her. And he actually didn't tell her what's going on in his head, and he just make an excuse and tell her that I've been weak in health. And Portia replies, no, my Prudence, you have some sick offense within your mind. Which means that Portia knew her husband very well, and she knew that something wrong is happening with Prudence. And Portia pleads with Brutus to share with her the source of his inner conflict, but he remains unmoved even after she kneels before him. So, uh, shouldn't you see here like Portia felt that something is wrong with Brutus, but actually Brutus didn't tell her what's going on or didn't tell her the inner conflict that he had. And we have to keep in mind the question, why didn't he tell her? Where is the reason behind such a thing? Didn't he trust her very well? Or probably because he himself was not certain of what is he doing, or he was actually not 100% sure he will kill Caesar or do the conspiracy plan. Why, student? Uh, Brutus didn't tell Portia about what he was thinking of. So let's keep this a question in mind. And we have here also during their dialogue, like during their conversation, Portia and her husband. So it was the dialogue between them was interrupted by a knock at the door. So the door knocked, and Brutus promised to tell Portia the secrets of his heart, but insists she leave him immediately. So he promised to tell her later. Why later, student? We have to think of these things, okay? And we see here at the knock of the door, we have Brutus' servant boy brings in a sick man that would speak with Brutus. So we have another character who came to Brutus' house, and this character is Caius Ligaris. And this one he will renounce his sickness if Brutus haven't had any exploit worthy the name of honor. So Ligurus wanted to follow Brutus with whatever is he doing. So Brutus tell him, I will explain to you what I'm about to do. Uh, and he will do that on their way to Caesar's house. So Ligaris himself agrees to follow Brutus also and to join them. And he said, to do I know not what, but is selfish that Brutus leads me on. So this scene, scene one, ends with the sound of thunder and Brutus imperative, follow me then. So also we have thunder, and as I already said, that thunder and lightning indicates something bad will happen um in the next day. We have here student scene two. So in scene two, and in each scene there is a place, the setting of the scene. So we have in scene one, the setting is Brutus garden. And in scene two, we have the setting that takes place in Caesar's house. And he was actually preparing to go to the capital or to the Senate. And it was also thunder and lightning during that time. And so, since Caesar was planning to go to the capital the next morning, Caesar actually didn't sleep, let's say, all night because he was awake due to California's scream. So, California screamed a couple of times because she had a dream about Caesar, and she dreamt that Caesar and is called, and she said, "Help! How they murder Caesar." So, she was awake and she was very afraid and she was worried. So, what Caesar did is that he asked his servant to go and do a sacrifice, which means to give a sacrifice to the priest. And then after that, he asked him to bring him their report, which means he wanted to know what the priests are thinking of California's dream or what they are thinking of this whole sacrifice part. Uh, California enters on the stage, let's say, and she says that she has never had faith in omens before, but in this night, and specifically in this night, so many strange and unnatural events happen, and she was very afraid of Caesar's safety. So, when Caesar insists that he will go to the capital, student, if you see here the role of Calpurnia, Caesar's wife, and the role of Portia, Brutus' wife, both of them we can consider them as an intuition. They had a great intuition. They felt there is something wrong with their husbands. Okay, so they're both of like California and Portia felt something wrong is gonna happen. But unfortunately, none of the husbands, let's say, none of their husbands believe in them. So, uh, she said that the heavens themselves ablaze for the death of a princess. Uh, she tried to convince Caesar to not actually go to the capital. And Caesar said his very, very popular quote in our play. And it says, cowards die many times before their deaths. The violent never taste of death but once. So, student, this is a very, very popular quote here in our play. And it means that cowards, since they are feeling afraid, so every time they feel afraid, they die and they see their death, let's say. And uh, the stronger person, he only tastes the death once because he is very strong. So Caesar, according to this code, he is very strong, so he does not fear death because all of us are going to go through this whole process of being buried in the death part. Okay, so since he sent the servant to do a sacrifice to the priest. So a servant came back and telling him that the priest would not have Caesar leave the house because they could not find a heart in the sacrificed beast. So since they slaughter an animal because it's a sacrifice thing, and they found out that this animal has no heart, and that indicates another omens, okay, a bad one. So the priests themselves also asked Caesar, or actually their report was not to go to the capital the next day. And Caesar actually remains unimpressed, and he said, Danger knows full well that Caesar is more dangerous than he. And which means that Caesar is very dangerous and nothing is gonna happen to him. California replies, Your wisdom is consumed in confidence. And she uh, begged on her knees and asked him to stay home. Uh, so Caesar kind of like convinced a little bit with California's speech, and he kind of like decided to stay home. And he also decided to tell, or let's say, inform Antony to tell the Senate that Caesar is not well, and for this reason, he is not coming. We have a knock on the door, and we have one of the conspirators who came to convince Caesar to go to the capital. We have Decius Brutus. He is not the main character, student. He is not a Brutus. Rather, he is Decius Brutus. Okay? So he entered into Caesar's house, and he also wanted to ensure that Caesar go to the Senate. Uh, Caesar told him about California's dream, and he said that California had a dream that my statue was running blood from 100 spots, and that all the Romans were washing their hands into this blood. And Decius, since he wanted Caesar to go to the Senate, he interpreted gives actually an alternate interpretation to this dream. And he says that no, Caesar, this bleeding statue will provide Rome with sustaining life blood. And for this reason, people, or let's say the citizens, will bathe in this blood. So when Caesar hears this, he changes his mind immediately and decided to go to the Senate. Despite all of the omens, bad omens, despite all of the thunder, dreams, and everything. And the reason why he decided, because he said, I do not want the Senate members to say that Caesar is yielded to his wife's fears and stayed at home. So we have the other conspirators. So let's say that Decius himself was very clever in convincing Caesar to go to the capital. So we have the other conspirators. All of them are joined by Brutus, and they also go to the Senate. Uh, so we have here that also, since the scene is almost finished, so Caesar tells Trypanius, he's also one of the characters in the play, Tell him, be near me that I might remember you, and that I may remember you. And Tryphaena said that, Caesar, I will be near you, that your best friends shall wish I had been further. So it was very hard for Caesar that his best friends are actually conspire against him. So Caesar, he was very naive to think that everyone is a friend to him, and he invites all of them to drink some wine, and he said, "We like friends will straightway go together." And Brutus said his last word aside, and he said, that every like is not the same, O Caesar. The heart of a Brutus earns to think upon. So Brutus himself also, he is kind of like uh feeling very sad for what is he about to do. That is not everyone who seems to be Caesar's a friend really is so, which means they pretend to be Caesar's a friends, but actually they are not. They are his enemies. So this is all what we have abbreviation of scene 2 and also scene 1 in our next lecture, hopefully in lecture 5, we will go through the um I think uh, scene 3 and also scene 4. Uh, both of them belongs to Act 2 students. So I hope this is a clear student, and thank you for listening.